and gentlemen, we are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. I got a couple of very special guests for you guys here today. This is, this is one of those topics that is going to be, it should be front headline news here for the foreseeable future about freight and what's going on out there, because with all the NMFC code changes that have happened, there's a lot of opportunity. I've been speaking about this for months now. I truly think this is that opportunity that a lot of sales reps have been looking for, because this changes the dynamic of freight out there, how people are going to be shipping things when based on density and everything. And are they going to explore other modes? So with that being said, I got my friends over at Cargo Spectre on the show today. I got Jason and Rohan joining me. Fellas, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Absolutely. Hey, Chris. Thanks for having us.
No, absolutely, man. I'm really looking forward to this, because, this is, like we were talking, I mean, I should have just hit go live when we were chatting before the show here, because we really started kind of jumping into a lot of key topics, in my opinion. But before we get into any of that stuff, what is Cargo Spectre? How did we get to here?
Yeah, so Cargo Spectre is a dimensioning and weighing, and we call it business and service rather than a system, really, because the entire design of what we have done is really built towards the shipper. It is built for a small to large warehouse. And it is built to be accurate on every piece of freight.
And so with something like this, how is this really like evolving, right? Because I think that when most people are thinking about LTL freight and other things out there, dimensioners, because this is the literal reason why I never excelled in LTL, because it wasn't the fact that we couldn't find capacity. It was always a rebill issue, right? And the margins in LTL, especially if you're a broker, can be slim out there. And it's like, I make $40 on a load, and then a rebill comes in, and it's like, now I owe $150 because it was off. And I was like, I just made that decision early on in my career. I'm like, all right, I'm done with it. I like the simplicity of truckload, of like, hey, our rate is the rate at the end of the day. There's no hidden surprise fees that come up after the fact. Was that one of those things where you were like, hey, we got to get ahead of this. We got to utilize technology to help bring more accuracy into this operation?
Absolutely. Quick 30 seconds on me. I was a warehouse manager for 10 years. I was a write-up guy before that doing the dimensioning, and I have always had a problem with accuracy on the warehouse floor. I always had 16 clerks in the office screaming at me because I had 20 guys I could never measure. Yeah. And so just what you said, this all came about because we needed an accurate way to do this on my warehouse floor. And gradually the customers' freight that I handled saw the data we were generating, and we had to create a business sort of around the demand just at my own warehouse, before I even knew what the trajectory was of this thing.
Yeah. And so Rohan, were you out there on the same thing? Is that where you kind of cut your teeth in this?
I started my career with the ocean freight container shipping industry, providing rate automation solutions for freight forwarders. And then one fine day, I was exhibiting my company in Munich, where I found Cargo Spectre right next to our booth. They liked my work. We kept in touch, and I joined them full-time as head of sales 3 years back. Nice. But I started my journey in the ocean freight segment, and then moved on to helping shippers accurately ship their products out.
Yeah.
And then in terms of providing evolution of why let's start with why people needed dimensioner in the first place. So carriers found out that shippers are shipping all kinds of freights, and they have limited space in their trailer, right? And they needed to accurately manage that space before the truck left the dock, let's call it that. And then these carriers then went ahead and bought dimensioners so that they could accurately plan their trucks in a perfect way, so that easier for the shipper, it's easier for the trailer to go to be loaded accurately and and go ahead as planned. What that evolved into was reclass and re-audit charges for shippers because they were packing they were packing stuff inaccurately, and that translated the carriers having the dimensioner translated into now the shippers needing the dimensioner, because now carriers expected shippers to accurately pack their items. And that's how the flow translated from carrier adopting this technology first to translating into shippers needing this. So I'd call it shippers being a reactive market.
So how does this work, right? Like, how does the system work? Is this like essentially when the original product is packaged? Is it after it's been palletized? Kind of walk us through that process of when your guys' system is starting to be applied to the supply chain.
So yeah, I'll take that one, Ron. So for the outbound shipper, we always recommend that it is the last thing you do before tendering freight. So if you have a wrap process, a labeling process, we absolutely want it wrapped, especially under a high PSI, like if you're using a Landtech wrap machine or something more automated that's going to put some pressure on it. What we've seen in our studies is that you can really affect the density / class of an item just by putting 200 pounds of plastic around it. We've seen freight go from 50 by 45 all the way down to the size of a pallet, which is certainly a class difference, / a lot of money. So we highly recommend, most of our customers use us completely on the outbound side. So on the warehouse floor, the way it looks is you would put it on a pallet wrap machine. Our systems work above anything for this reason. We have shippers that don't wrap, do wrap, need a freight scale. There's all kinds of scenes on any warehouse floor. So as the name of our game is to work above all of them. So with that said, most of our customers will wrap. They will put their either the BOL or their sales order number, whatever license plate they have for that freight. They will scan the barcode, and after it's wrapped, we'll take dimensions, weights, and pictures, and all that flows across an integration. That's when the automation magic really happens.
So is this something that needs to be done every single time, or like with machine learning, AI, and a lot of stuff out there, does it recognize patterns where I want to think of the shipper out there that it's like, we'll just, for simplicity's sake here, it's always going to be a standard 48 by 48 by 48 pallet. It's always going to weigh 350 pounds. Is there a way then that they can almost, where like with machine learning, it gets smarter and it just automatically spits out that data for it? Or is this something that it has to be done every single time? Because especially now with the NMFC code changes and it is being density based, I mean, every little change out there could affect the price. Is this something that you guys are encouraging people like, hey, we want to run this every single time?
Absolutely. And I'll start with this, but I really need to pass this one to Rohan, because this is really Rohan. This was Rohan's baby. Yeah. But I will simply start by saying we scrambled to actually add a solution very quickly in response to the NMFTA changes. And actually, we worked with NMFTA. They're who facilitate and provide and help us provide this to the customer or to the shipper. But from the dimensioning perspective in AI, it absolutely learns. Everything we do is AI based. So we don't have a huge 100-person developer team. We don't have a bunch of VC funding. We're all self-funded and we have a small team, but we're able to do some big things simply because we utilize AI. Yeah. Perfect example is we work above anything out of the box. It really doesn't require any customization to use our standard product. We've taken this a step further by actually filtering out forklifts that are connected to freight while in motion. So we actually have a gate now that you can literally drive through and do the whole thing without thinking. So on the dimensioning of warehouse floor, that's what I wanted to offer. But Rohan really has the NMFTA dialed in. I'm going to let him speak more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, to your point, first of all, we need to dimension every single piece, every single pallet that goes out. Dimensioning with CargoSpectre just takes 1 second. There is no moving parts, and it's kind of a seamless process. The reason for basically dimensioning every single pallet is because the carriers will bill you per pallet and not per shipment. So any reclass charges that you get will be per pallet. And then we have this ties into what Jason said about scanning the barcode, which could be your license plate number, delivery order number, shipping order number, whatever identifies that unique pallet. So when you get the reclass charge, what CargoSpectre customers do is they reference that barcode in CargoSpectre Cloud, find that specific piece, and send the freight certificate. And that certificate has legal for trade dimensions, weights, pictures, along with the barcode and the scan time, the time it was tendered to the carrier's truck.
Okay.
So that really helps hone the process so that our customers have saved thousands of dollars of reclass charges, and they've proactively sent us those studies saying how your dimensioner has helped us save all of these charges. Now, going a step beyond, we are the only dimensioner out in the market who provides NMFC Class ID Plus tool directly from the dimensioner itself. Now,
wow.
this also ties back to your point where if there is an overhang, if a shipper is always shipping commodity A, and it's always supposed to be 40 by 48 pallet and 50 height, for example, because it's a standard commodity that you ship every single time. Now, what you can do with CargoSpectre is you can build in triggers saying, say 40 by 48 by 50 should always be class 55. This is the commodity that you're shipping. Now, since we give you the NMFC freight class directly within the dimensioner, we'll show you the class. So if we show you class 70, there's something wrong with your packaging. There's either an overhang that you miss. You have an opportunity to correct it right at your dock door, at the warehouse floor itself, before the freight even leaves your dock. And because it's supposed to be class 55, you have an opportunity to repackage it to class 55. And that's the biggest advantage of having the NMFC Class ID Plus tool right at your dimensioner.
Okay. So is this something where, obviously there's multiple LTL carriers out there, right? So maybe they vary out there and, because every, to Robert Calton's point here, he was saying in the end, every freight class is up to each carrier's tariff. If they use, say, again, hypothetically, they're like, hey, we use Old Dominion, we use Estes, we Roadrunner, whomever, are they able to upload all of that stuff into your system so it automatically kind of like associates with it, so there is no discrepancy out there? Because again, I'm just trying to think outside the box a little bit here. Is every carrier is different, everybody prices differently, somebody's freight class is going to be different compared to the carrier itself, right? So do you guys have a way for the shipper to delineate between provider to ensure that it matches up with whomever is coming in to pick up that shipment that day?
So, yeah, absolutely. I can take that one, Jason. So we don't just provide the NMFC freight class. All of the data that we generate is categorized into dimensions, weights, pictures, and the NMFC class. So like you said, let's take an example here. So for example, FedEx Freight here has delayed the implementation by 150 days. So they're still following the old NMFC class. So that doesn't mean to say that you cannot use the dimensioner now, or the NMFC class provided by the dimensioner will be incorrect, because the NMFC class is provided directly by NMFTA team via API to us, right? So the class is always going to be accurate when you use CargoSpectre, number one. Number two, if you're still using the old convention, we still give you the dimensions, weights, pictures, and the density, which is how the carrier will bill you. And all of that information is provided in the freight certificate that we generate automatically on each scan. So we don't see any, so far we haven't heard any reclass charges or claims for customers using CargoSpectre's dimensioners.
So are there any specific verticals that, people have already adopted this? Is it, primarily, is it cold chain? Is it standard? Like kind of like where are those areas that you guys have seen the most success of adoption of your guys' product out there?
So I would say you break this out into over the last 10 years, the first half of us being a business was more actually in the international freight market with freight forwarders, international terminals like CFS stations. And where we really got our start was on the inbound side. So when freight was received is when we would scan and do our process, since the burden on them is not to receive damage instead of shipping damages. As you can imagine, over the last since the pandemic, really, and kind of moving forward, there's really been a huge push on both of the ends, but mainly in the manufacturing sector, / shippers. They're the ones that have really had the louder voice probably over the last 3 to 4 years. That's most of our leads. Most of the sales calls we take are usually with shippers and manufacturers at this point that are shipping domestically versus international shipments, going to Brazil that need tons of pictures, for instance. So over the last 3 years, the theme really has been shippers. We've seen both sides, both, kind of what the carriers say and what the shippers say. And I mean, we kind of sympathize with both. It's a shame. It's a shame the industry has gotten to this sort of point where, carriers are, it is very hard to be a carrier. High overhead, low margins, lots of people, lots of liability. It is very hard to be a carrier. And you tack in people that don't weigh, measure, and tender freight correctly, so you have no idea what you're picking up, how much each truck is carrying. I mean, that even exacerbates their issues even more. So, and that's being reflected back onto the shipping market by, hey, we got these reclasses, we have all this. That's why there's so much friction.
Yeah.
And I'd add to that saying, we touch every single warehouse within the country and globally, no matter if you're a shipper, if you're a carrier, or if you're in the air freight segment. So we have customers across the board. If you have a warehouse and you need to dimension your cargo, you need to have a cargo specter. And now that now translates into the product profile that we have. So we have a standard pallet dimensioner, which is typically used by even a shipper shipping 50 pallets a month, still needs and uses the standard pallet dimensioner. And it's super cost in 2 months' time. It's typically a no-brainer. Now, moving to the other segment where you have carriers terminals, which has 100 cross docks, right? So you need something that can move faster. And that therein comes in the roll-through dimensioner, which is Cargo Spectre's in-motion dimensioner, where you don't need to stop at all. You keep the freight moving, and we capture the dimensions on the move. Similarly, within the air freight consolidators, again, high volume facilities, you cannot miss airline cutoff timings, and you need to process freight faster. So again, the roll-through dimensioner comes into the picture there.
No, yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question is how do you differentiate yourself between the shipper of volume out there, right? Like you said, like the 50 pallet a month shipper and then the 50 pallet an hour shipper that is out there. How do you deploy that across multiple dock doors and stuff like that? Is there kind of like a central location inside of the warehouse, or is this something that you could almost deploy on the frame of a dock door where it's like, hey, every time they pull a pallet off of a truck, it's able to, go through the dimensioner just like that?
Yeah, so currently it's more of a chandelier further in, so that way there's multiple stations. So about every 5 dock doors will be serviced by one dimensioner hanging overhead. That's currently what we have. We're building out more things with our roll through to really achieve that, though. If you think about it, when you pull stuff off the dock, dimensions, weights, pictures, those are very, very helpful. That's not all that goes into OS&D. When you receive or when you're pushing stuff into a trailer, and you need kind of the OS&D on the outbound side to protect you against claims or damages, once the carrier takes it, right? There's more stuff to be done, so we're in the process of building out even more stuff to really make the dock gate really the kind of the future vision. Currently though, dimensions, weights, and pictures is only about 2/3 of the equation there.
Okay. So just a couple of questions here. Robert was wondering, does your guys' service include Class IT Plus, or does the shipper need their own Class IT Plus account? He wants to share this out there with his current customers. Robert moves a lot of LTL freight.
So we have a partnership with an NMFTA team because they want to propagate this to shipper community, right? And we are kind of a one-stop shop for them to get access to a lot of shippers at the same time. So we do provide the NMFC's Class ID Plus tool without the shipper needing to log in their own credentials. We, as Cargo Spectre, have our own login, and you can, if you have a Cargo Spectre, you get NMFC's Class ID Plus tool directly within the dimensioner without you needing your own login details.
Okay, perfect. And then he was are you guys also selling to carriers who to scan their freight at the dock?
Absolutely, we do.
Well, and that's an interesting question, actually, because this brings up an interesting point. If you look at the last 5 years, most carriers over the last 5 to 10 years have bought dimensioners. Okay, most of them bought before we were even a company.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you kind of look at, where they're going now and what's sort of transpired and everything out there, okay, the carriers, what we've heard from the carriers is, we make a lot of money on these static dimensioners, but, the freight reception velocity of each of our terminals, we can stick about 5% of the receiving freight that we receive into these terminals through these dimensioners. There's no way we have enough throughput or enough budget to afford, 12 dimensioners and guys to push those through. So that is why we made our in-motion system, and that's who we're actively deploying these to, among other customers, of course. But that's really what the roll-through system really addresses, is their need to put more freight through a dimensioner per an hour, because they simply have too much freight to even audit all of that.
Okay.
So really good question.
No, and then he also had another, I think this one came in earlier, but it was, kind of talking about the dimensioner. So, he's talking about Estes rates freight that is 72 inches of higher at 96 high. Does your service account for this? Or if a shipper wants a pallet as non-stackable, does it calculate density based on 96 high?
So currently, I want to be transparent in saying that we are currently building all of this. We're scrambling as fast as we can.
Okay.
As you can imagine,
Sure.
The shipper feedback we've gotten from just the sales this year has been just incredible.
Yeah.
So I want to first off say that the answer is probably no, not at this day. But I do want to be transparent that we are building out a ton of stuff as fast as we can to really address most of these questions in the chat. So with that, well, I'll pass this off to you, Rohan, too, since you're leading that up. But so with that, we are building in things that will help with and facilitate this. So we cannot control every carrier's way of doing business. No one can, okay? What we can do, though, is create tools that reach in and show you, hey, given this class, this density, and, these specs, if it's non-stackable, hazardous, whatever other marks may be on this freight, okay? What we're working towards is giving you a way to display, okay, this carrier based on what you scanned with this class and item number. This is this carrier's experience. This is this carrier's experience. So we're working on a way to bring that all together quickly, may I add. We just don't have it in place yet.
Yeah. And to add to Jason's point, or even addressing the question on hand, so between 72 and 96, basically what we have seen or heard from our shippers is carriers are billing them basis the actual length, width, and height, which translates into, along with the weight, translates into the density, which combined with the commodity that you're shipping, stackable, non-stackable, material type, determine all of these variables determine the end NMFC freight class. Now, what we are doing currently is, because the dimensioner gives you all of this automated within the 1 second scan time, you get the length, width, and height. So what is the actual height? It could be 72, it could be 96. You also get another tab if NMFC needs the material type. Then you get another drop down, choose your material. Is it plastic? Is it metal? And then we feed all of that information onto NMFC's database and give you the accurate freight class. And that's all you're supposed to tender to your carrier.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I was going to say, so this is about as far us being outside of being a carrier and involved in that. The way we see it is, this is everything kind of we can do from an outsider's perspective to help shippers facilitate this. Again, can't really control each carrier and how they do business, but what we can control is, hey, you're getting clean data. If you have a carrier like that is becoming harder to kind of manage their rules versus everyone else that does it a different way, for instance, I mean, that may be an opportunity once you have that in place to go to the carrier and say, look, this is the way we're doing it. How can we work together? I mean, at the end of the day, it still goes back to having a relationship with your carrier. We just hope that using us and the user experience behind what we add to that relationship is enough to kind of facilitate and help that along.
Yeah. And, I want to kind of shift a little bit into like what you guys are doing for the accounting folks that listen to the show and, talking about billing disputes and everything. Do you guys have any like real examples of, recovered, like how customers have recovered significant revenue, avoiding chargebacks and kind of like cleaning up that billing? Because like, as a sales rep, saying that you can provide a service is one thing, but accounting and being able to accurately bill your customers, I would say, is just as important as you being able to send in a truck on time.
Absolutely. And we have several spreadsheets that customers have actually given us just because they love the results for the money that we charge. Okay. And most of these spreadsheets agree that we return about an 8 to 11x return within the first 60 days of use with our dimensioning systems. Assuming you sat through the training we did on site when we installed it, assuming you know how to use the system and keep it functioning and maintained, which is not hard. Within 60 days, really makes us really proud to see that we have multiple customers confirming, just average it out to a 10x return. So every dollar spent on Cargo Spectre has yielded them $10. And what's really exciting is if you really look at it, this is just in the billing and money and like sheer black and white data. The great part of that savings is there's a whole audit department that's not having to work as hard either. There's way less invoices to audit. We didn't even calculate that time in our analysis.
Jesus. So how does this evolve from here, right? Like, I know you guys have a lot of stuff. I mean, because obviously when you're going and, contrary to popular belief, when you start a business and a product, it takes a long time to develop it, right? Because you're going to get this feedback. And then especially as, a change as significant as the NMFC code change is happening here, where does this evolve? How does this get smarter? How does this continue to, save your customers more and more money out there? Because like at the end of the day, having a working product is one thing, but like in a time that we are in right now where the freight market is kind of trudging along on the bottom, people are constantly looking, how do we save more money inside of our operation? Where do you guys see this evolving out over the next, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So it's important to note, part of what we have focused on are kind of the 3 pillars that really facilitate a lot of that customer feedback. It's one thing to get a bunch of customer feedback, but you really have to know how to disseminate it, turn it into something we want to produce. There's a lot more to that. So we've built out a ton of infrastructure to study the data we're getting from customers, as well as listen to them and sort of see where the next direction we should go. I think there's sort of a near-term perspective and a far-term perspective. So part of this is my wishful thinking, but my hope, I should say, I should begin this with, I hope that over the next 3 years, shippers will realize that there are affordable digital tools to use in the warehouse. But going further than that, what I hope that does is really open the doors for LTL freight to flow much more smoothly and with less friction. We love seeing that our customers already have much less friction in the auditing. We would love to see this kind of grow nationwide to where freight just travels. We would love to see one day where the carriers don't need dimensioners because there's so many shippers that already have them. It's really not price justified. As a matter of fact, they don't even need a W&I department. I know this is super wishful thinking for everybody listening out there, but over the next 3 years, I hope to at least see some movements towards, digital ways of submitting a bill and asking for a quote versus literally sending your rep an email. And here's the guesstimated DIMS. I hope we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So short-term perspective, I do hope to see, or at least I would think we would see some moves towards even more digital ways of submitting data, getting quotes, less classification or less reclass fees, and, carriers actually starting to actually reap some higher margins on the business because they don't have to look at every piece of freight now. I think there's a longer term vision where really robotics has a place in the warehouse. I don't think we're there yet. And I think kind of your sign for when this will happen is when Tesla masters self-driving. They're not there yet either. So that's why I say this is a longer term. But if that can be accomplished, I think there's even more savings for a lot of the bigger shippers as well as carriers to actually not even handle the freight, have a robot do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm excited. I'm excited for where things are trending in the industry. And I think, anything to bring more efficiency to the market is what's always needed out there. So Rohan, Jason, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you got going on at Cargo Spectre?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can look up cargospectre.com and go to our contact form. You can also call our really easy to remember hotline, which is 833-DIM-HELP. Designed that way for warehouse employees. If they break the system and need to work, that's the life support number.
And for tech savvy customers, you can go check out our LinkedIn page. It's updated frequently, and anything that we knew, it gets posted there the first thing.
Perfect. Rohan, Jason, thank you guys so much for joining me. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey.